Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be another episode of the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup, and it has been about a week or so since I did my last transfer video, and since then we've got some massive transfer rumours which are going around the Championship at this point in time. Of course, some massive money has already spent, but we've still got about 3 weeks or so until the transfer window does slam shut, so there is still plenty of time for clubs to be doing more business, and by the looks of things we've still got quite a bit to talk over. So guys, I must say as well, before we do get into any completed transfers, my week 2 score predictions will be coming out tomorrow at 4 o'clock, so make sure you guys do stay tuned on the channel for that one, as we have some big games going into week 2. But enough of that, let's first of all talk about some completed transfers. So a couple recent completed transfers, the first of which being Leo Bonatini, who of course completed his loan move to Wolves, and of course since completing his move from Al Hatil, he actually scored on his debut for Wolves in that game against Middlesbrough and actually popped up with the game winner for them, so that's a decent one for Wolves. They are still in for a couple of other players, Wolves, we'll talk about them later in the video, but in terms of a loan deal, Wolves have done pretty well this season in the loan market. Sunderland have also signed Robin Ruttier, the Dutch goalkeeper, who I think should be their #1 going into this season. Myself, I'm not the biggest fan of Jason Steele, so how he'll adapt to playing at Sunderland I'm not so sure, but they've got Ruttier in now through the door. He's quite an experienced Dutch goalkeeper, and he may be a decent one for him. I can't say I know too much about him. Barnsley have also completed the transfer. They have signed Blackpool's midfielder Brad Potts. Now, I have seen Brad Potts play a couple of times, and I think he will fit into how Barnsley like to play. In his last 2 seasons at Blackpool, he managed to pop up with 19 goals in all competitions, so obviously he is a goal-scorer midfielder, and I think that will bode well with a lot of Barnsley fans. Of course, Barnsley not getting off to the best start to the season, I think it's fair to say, but with a couple more additions, they should be okay this year. Reading also completed the transfer of Modou Barrow. He was arriving from Swansea for a fee in and around about 1.5 million now. He didn't have the best of loan moves last time out. He was at Leeds United. He only played 5 or so games for them, so he couldn't really seem to get going. So if he does get a chance at Reading, I think there is still a good player in there, and Yap Stands obviously bought him for a reason. Preston completed the loan signing of Steffi Mavididi from Arsenal, and the striker, quite a physical striker. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the North End shirt, and from watching some YouTube clips of him, some highlight reels of him and stuff like that, he does look to be quite a skillful player, a very direct player as well. One thing I must say though is he really does need to touch up on his finishing. I mean, I suppose that is the case with most young strikers really, but from watching some of the highlight clips of him, he dribbles past about 8 players and then puts a shot wide, so that's something for him to work on. But with Preston having a fairly young team overall, he could fit into our flow we go with. Ipswich have definitely been a side this year who have been fairly busy in this transfer window, and they've added to their attacking supplements with Martin Waghorn. He signed on a 2-year deal from Rangers for a fee in and around about £1 million, so that actually may not be the worst deal for them. You know, he'll of course be linking up with his former teammate Joe Garner, who played at Rangers. He's quite a different striker to Joe Garner, so he gives them a little bit of a different dynamic going forward. He can also play out wide as well, so a bit versatile in that aspect, and his goal scoring record actually wasn't that bad for Rangers, so he may fit into the way they play. QPR have been quite a quiet side in this transfer window, I think it's fair to say, but they have completed the free signing of Alex Baptiste. Now, of course, myself being a Preston fan, I got to watch this guy last year, and I've got to say, I think this is a brilliant signing for QPR. You know, I would have happily welcomed Baptiste back to Preston. He's very solid at the back. He's quite versatile as well. He can play either centre-back or right-back, and throughout the majority of the season, he probably was one of our most consistent performers that season, and I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bit disappointed that we've not been able to get him back. The only thing that is a bit of a doubt over Alex Baptiste is his injury record. Staying fit, I think he's about 31 years old, so he's not the youngest of players, and he does tend to pick up an injury every now and again. So that's the only negating factor to signing Alex Baptiste, but overall I think it is a very good signing for QPR. Although I do think they still need to touch up on a couple of other areas. Maybe some more flair players for QPR and they may be okay this year. Leeds have completed the loan signing of Cameron Borthwick-Jackson, of course, the young player arriving from Manchester United. Last season he didn't have the best of loan moves. He was on loan last season at Wolves. He only played a handful of games for them, so couldn't really seem to get going from. But But from what I have seen of him when he was playing at Manchester United, there is still potential in this guy, and so if he can deliver that and get into a more consistent team, maybe at Leeds this season, he may be a decent option for them. And then the final completed transfer to talk over was that of Marco Stiepermann, who has signed for Norwich. Now, this guy is actually a very versatile player. He can take up a number of positions. I'm led to believe he can play in central midfield, he can play as a defensive midfielder, and he can also play at the back as well. He seems to be quite comfortable with playing left back, so he should fit into how Daniel Farke likes to play. Of course, a very versatile player, probably will fit into how he likes to play and how a lot of his players usually are, so that could be a decent signing for Norwich. And so there, guys, were the recently completed transfers which have gone through in the Championship. If I did leave any out, let me know about them in the comments down below. But now to the main bit of the video, guys, let's get into some transfer rumours. So the first transfer rumour does involve my club, and unfortunately for me, it's not a player being linked to Preston, it's a player being linked away. That is Callum Robinson, who has recently been linked with a move to Derby County. Now, apparently Derby did actually inquire for Callum Robinson, and myself being a Preston fan, I would be absolutely gutted if we did lose Robbo this season. I think he will really thrive under Alex Neil this season, and I think we'll get the best out of him this year. Last season in the Championship, he managed to score 11 goals, so he's already shown he can do it at this level, and if he just adds a little bit more consistency to his game, I think he'll absolutely flourish this season. In terms of the player he is, he's a very skillful player, very good on the ball, and likes to run at players as well. The only thing he could do with a little bit of touching up on is at times he's a little bit inconsistent with his final product, so that could be something to work on, and as well as that, at times you could argue he is a little bit lightweight. But all in all, I would be very sad to lose Robbo. I think he is one of our most valuable assets at Preston North End, and I'd be very disappointed if he did leave for anything less than around about 6 million really. Although Derby's interest in Callum Robinson does seem to have faded recently due to their new interest in Che Adams. Now, apparently Derby have actually had a bid rejected for Che Adams. They put in a bid for around about £3 million, which of course Birmingham definitely not going to accept that sort of money. And interestingly enough, he actually scored a hat-trick last night in the Cup for Birmingham, so obviously a player who looks to be in form at the moment. I can't see this one happening either. Derby had been inquiring about a lot of players recently, of course. After losing Tom Ince, they just can't seem to find anyone with the price they're willing to pay, but I feel like Che Adams may be more of the same. Birmingham will be desperate to keep hold of him. I think he could have a big season this year as well for Birmingham, and of course with Gary Rowett working with him before, you can see that connection between them. But honestly, I think Che Adams wouldn't go on the cheap. I think Birmingham would probably demand quite a bit more than 3 million. Hull City are being linked with the move for Seb Larsson. This looks to be a transfer which is actually very close to actually going over the line. He is currently a free agent and would look to be a decent option to actually bolster their midfield and their numbers in general really. I mean, Hull City have a squad where they seemingly have brought in quite a few young loanees, so to get a bit of experience in the Championship wouldn't go amiss for them. Seb Larsson, he is 32 years old, but not the youngest player, but I still think he could do it in the Championship. Birmingham are still being linked with a move for Aidan Flint as well. This just seems to be the transfer rumour which just won't go away at the moment. Pretty much throughout the majority of it really, Aidan Flint has been linked with a move away from Bristol City, but reportedly Bristol City, the asking price they put on Aidan Flint's head has been £10 million, and honestly I would be very surprised to see Birmingham pay that sort of fee for him. It looked to be like Birmingham were willing to pay up to around about 5 or 6 million for him maybe, but 10 million for Aidan Flint, I can't see that move happening either. One move I wouldn't be too surprised at happening is actually Craig Noone, who is currently being linked with a move to a couple of Championship clubs. Both Ipswich and Burton Albion are currently interested in the Cardiff winger, and for a fee only around about £500,000, which is what he'd probably go for, that actually wouldn't be a bad option for either of these two sides, especially Burton as well, who I think are still in need of a couple more attacking options. He'd be a good buy for them for £500,000. Sheffield United are being linked with a move for Blackburn Rovers' Darragh Lenihan, and there's been quite a few things being said about this guy at the moment in terms of the fee which Blackburn Rovers are willing to let him go for. Apparently Sheffield United have had a 1.5 million bid rejected for the Blackburn Rovers player. Blackburn apparently want a fee closer to £5 million. I'd be very surprised if Sheffield United were to cough up that amount, but if they were to rise the price to maybe more in terms of £2.5 million, that may tempt Blackburn into accepting. A player being linked away from Hull City at this point in time is actually their goalkeeper, Alan McGregor. Now, Nottingham Forest in this transfer window have been linked with quite a few goalkeepers, and the one they've been linked to at the moment is Alan McGregor. Now, he is 35 years old, but don't let that turn you away from him, you know. His performance against Aston Villa last week really showed that this guy's still got him. I think as a Championship goalkeeper, he's very solid, more than capable, definitely, and for Nottingham Forest, I think he would be a good option for that. And then to replace him, Hull City are being linked with a move for Wolves' Andy Lonergan. This was a transfer which did catch me off guard, sort of, you know. I wouldn't really anticipate Hull to be going in for a player like Andy Lonergan, but I suppose he would be a number 2 if these two transfers were to happen and McGregor would actually leave Hull City. I'd guess that Marshall would then go and be their number 1, and then they bring Lonergan in to be their number 2. A bit of Championship experience, but a bit of a funny one, that one, really. Hull City are also being linked with the move for Leicester City's AHMED MUSA. Now, of course, MUSA didn't really have the best season last year at Leicester. He couldn't really find his way into the starting 11, and he only did manage to bag 2 goals last season for Leicester, but this probably would be on a loan deal, and in the Championship, I think MUSA could cause a bit of damage, of course. We all know how good MUSA is actually on FIFA, but in terms of real life, he has got blistering pace going forward and would cause a lot of Championship defenders problems. Ryan Kent is still being linked with a move away from Liverpool on a loan deal, and I've actually been keeping my eye quite closely on Ryan Kent. Of course, he had a very successful last loan spell out on loan at Barnsley, and this season, in pre-season, he's been on fire for Liverpool, so if any Championship club is able to acquire his services, they'll be in it this season. Robert Snodgrass is being linked with a move to Aston Villa at this point in time, and once again, this is a transfer that I wouldn't actually be too surprised at happening. We've already seen Aston Villa sign some big names in this transfer window, and Robert Snodgrass would actually be a pretty phenomenal signing in my opinion. For the Championship, I think Robert Snodgrass would be absolute dynamite in this league. If he's playing crosses into players like Codger going forward, that partnership that those two would have would be absolutely excellent to watch. And Robert Snodgrass in the Championship, what do you think, Villa fans? Of course, Birmingham are still in the market to sign a striker. They're still being linked with a move for Jordan Hugill, but the one they're really being linked to at this point in time is Isaac Vassell. Currently playing for Luton in League 2. Birmingham have reportedly had a bid rejected of £1.2 million. This guy got bags of potential. He does look like an incredibly pacey player, so once again, pace in the Championship, that goes hand in hand really. And last season he managed to bag 14 goals in League 2 for Luton. And then to wrap up the video, we do have a couple transfers regarding Wolves. So of course, Wolves still in this transfer market. They're still looking out for a striker. The first one they're being linked to quite heavily at the moment is Southampton's Sam Gallagher. Now, apparently Wolves are willing to pay around about £8 million for the services of Sam Gallagher. However, Southampton reportedly do want a little bit more than that. So, Wolves fans, would you like to see Sam Gallagher come in this season? Last season for Blackburn Rovers, he managed to go ahead and bag 11 goals. I don't think that's too bad, really. He was playing in a struggling side, and especially when you consider towards the tail end of last season, Sam Gallagher wasn't actually in the starting 11. Under Tony Mowbray, he didn't really seem to be fancied. He was more playing players like MUSA in front of Sam Gallagher. So, for that reason, 11 goals for a struggling Blackburn side isn't actually too bad, considering as well the service he would have at Wolves. I think Sam Gallagher would be a good option for them, actually. They're also being linked with a move for Jordan Rhodes. Now, Rhodes is a different kettle of fish, actually, when it comes to Sam Gallagher. Quite a bit older as well. Jordan Rhodes is a really funny player. What I'm going to ask you guys at the end of the video is, do you think Jordan Rhodes has lost his touch? His last 2 moves, of course, he really was a flop at Middlesbrough, and so far at Sheffield Wednesday, I think it's fair to say the same thing as well. So, you could blame that on a couple of other things. Maybe he's not got the service at Sheffield Wednesday, but overall, out of the 2 players, honestly, I would rather go for Sam Gallagher. If I was a Wolves fan, I would rather them go for Sam Gallagher. I think he'd fit into their style of play more than Jordan Rhodes. That's just my opinion on it. So guys, there are all the current transfer rumours which are flying around the championship. So if you have seen any other transfer rumours which I failed to mention in this video, let me know about them in the comments down below. As well as that, who would you like to see your club still bring in this transfer window? Like I said, we still have around about 3 weeks left of the window, so there's still plenty of time for more business to be done. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. So if you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for regular championship content. Check out all the other links in the description down below. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.